All right, welcome to dropping in at Pipeline Audio number 68, and this is Tinfoil Hats. And so, it's always fun to wake up, or, in the middle of the night, maybe you couldn't sleep or whatever, and you see a bunch of notifications on your phone that, somebody's having some problems with their software. And without even being psychic or anything, you just guess. I'm almost sure they're going to be an OS X user. It's probably going to be Logic. Maybe not, but probably. And it's always installs. It's the craziest thing. Like, there's always... So I guess when you're on a Mac, you can download a file, and then the way they describe it, it seems like it just disappears. Sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't disappear, but you get it down onto your desktop or whatever, and then it doesn't do anything if you click on it. And then other times it'll download and it'll do something if you click on it, but it'll just tell you that it needs to be updated or something. It's like as if they know what, you're downloading the newest version of our stuff. How's it needs to be updated? And sometimes there's things you can do about it and sometimes there's not. The users usually don't know what to do. We do have some stuff on the frequently asked questions on our page, but often this thing keeps happening. Sometimes I guess you can right click. If you even have a right click, oh my God. I could just go on for hours and hours and hours about these Macs that don't have right clicks on them. Or right mouse buttons on the laptop. Man, I know there's some like right click emulation things, but man, what a nightmare. Please just make sure you got right mouse buttons on there. Anyway, you should be able to right click this thing and choose open anyway. Sometimes that doesn't work. Hey, we paid for driver signing, so any of these like false flag things, and look, that happens on Windows, and we still see the smart screen thing come up on Windows, even though we've paid for driver signing. Now, come on, guys, we paid for driver signings. Take that stuff out. I still see it in other people's, very trusted people's plugins when you try and install them. So it's not just us, but man, this OS X paranoia level thing is just crazy, and it's just so hard to deal with. It had we had a student who's really trying to learn audio recording in digital audio workstations, and I figure let's learn how to do some installs, and she was able to install a couple plugins. But we grabbed Forefront's piano, and this thing's like in so many tutorials and had so many downloads. You figure if it really was a bug of some sort or virus, you would have heard about it by now. And we were actually able to install it. This is one of those why I wanted her to see, because this is one of those ones you had to drag and drop the plugin files into the plugins folder on OS X. And so I want to make sure she knew how to do that. And everything went good, and fired it up in Reaper. And then when Reaper scanned it, it came up with some kind of message that, it's downloaded from the internet or whatever. And it just, there was no option to whitelist it and let it go. There was just no way to run that plugin. I have no idea what you're supposed to do. I asked on the Reaper users group, actually, and there was a couple answers and stuff, but man, this is insane. On the Windows, it'll warn you, hey, this might be a virus or something, even when it's not. But you can keep going after that. It doesn't just disappear it, you know? I mean, this is some painful paranoia. And actually, we pulled in another plugin. I think it was Oral River's reverb thing. And that one did the same thing, you know? So, what a bummer. You know, come on, let's at least install plugins, man. Come on. What else do I have? Man, you know, we're still going through this dilemma of do we swap out the X32, you know, the Behringer Midas setup, which is real handy. Do we swap that out for interfaces and mic preamps the way we used to have it, and the way most people do if you don't have one of these network audio things? And, you know, I talk a lot about not being able to keep the routing and the processes in my head, because these things are just, you kind of have to go about it in a way which it makes a lot of sense for live sound or PA use, but not so much for a recording routing system. I mean, it's still super powerful and awesome, but it can be a pain. It can be really hard to keep it in your head exactly how it's routed, and that makes things tricky when you have multiple people using it, and you know, they're relying on you to remember, or that you have to do these complicated things. You know, I've shown my routing diagrams and switches and everything before, and it's just really hard to keep in your head. And today I had to try and talk someone over the phone through it, and man, it just it was ugly. And I remember how to fix it, but I don't really have the routing in my head. It's just it's very disturbing, actually. So, you know, it's not so bad to go back to these other setups, but at the same time, these things are really cool in that, you know, you press a button and you do bring back, you instantly recall all your routing, reconfigure the whole thing with one load of a file, and all your mic preamp gains, all your assignments, everything. And also, these things work as really good PA systems at the same time. And so, you know, I can be recording and they can use it as a PA system, and which means I don't have to put two mics up or something. So whatever mic they're singing through goes through the recording system and then back out to the PA. In real time, the actual way we're routed, it goes back in with no latency or no added latency. And that, I think I'm actually going to have to give up if we do it this way, which is kind of a bummer, but maybe it's the way to go. I don't know. We shall see. I might put the XR18 back into use in that room, or who knows, you know. There is a way to send it back out there, I think. You know, I really got to think about this, because this could actually be a bummer. Yeah, that sucks. So I really got to think about how we could get them back out there. I know, I think there's like an insert out or something on some of these mic preamps. I don't know. That's kind of a bummer. But, you know, it does take away a lot of other problems, like the confusion. So I'm thinking about, if we do switch back to mic preamps and stuff, do I put the mic preamps out in the room? And actually, I just received today the Focusrite Octoprix, the Scarlet one, the dynamic, because that one has line out. So I was going to get the claret, but, you know, I don't know. It's probably not that much really different, and I needed to use a D-sub DB25, which I used to solder all day long back in the day, but I don't have any of that gear here. So, you know, it just would have cost a lot more money, and I don't know that there was really any extra value. So anyhow, I'm thinking about putting those mic preamps out in the room, the same place the DL32 is. And I'm hearing from people that I can make ADAT cables a lot longer. So I could just order some really long cables, put them out in that room, and maybe it'd be handier out there because then I don't need to be here when people are recording, or I don't know. This is always such a give and take, so many compromises. Because do I have to be here and have my room unlocked in order to turn on the word clock for the mic preamps to work and stuff? We got to think about things like that. So I was looking at ADAT cable length, and there was oh man, I thought I had it pulled up. Sorry, give me 1 second. There was these ADAT cable extenders that turned it into network. So there was a couple. There was this Here Technologies, and then something else somebody on the Reaper forum recommended. But yeah, there's something like this, like 100, basically $250 for an in and out that turns the ADAT into you could run it down an Ethernet cable to a network, or I'm not sure exactly how this would work actually with multiples of them, but I guess you could make your ADAT cables as long as you want. But now I have people telling me, and I did order 4 20-foot ADAT cables, but I have people telling me that they're running them 30, 40 feet with no problem. In that case, I'd actually be able to do this if I were to put the mic preamps out in the room. Because, again, we do need to split some of these mic preamps, maybe all these mic preamps, we'll see, between the rooms so that both rooms can use an audio interface that gets the same signal. So like, the first 16 of them will be the drums and maybe some other things. And I want those to always be able to go on to both rooms. So, I might have to run some long ADAT cables, but I think 20 feet is going to work. So maybe I'll go longer than that if I have to. And then, so dealing with that, I got to think about a desk. And man, back in the day, I went through my old photos and took, picked out some of the desks that I had back in the day that I really, really liked. And I can't remember, we had Omni racks, we had Argosy, but what were the other big brands? I'm not talking about Studio RTA and that stuff, but what were the ones that maybe it was Argosy, I don't know. I remember every once in a while we'd have consoles that had their own special desks made for them that had really handy racks and stuff. I'm really debating, I like the regular old vertical racks under the desk. I don't know if you remember seeing pictures of my studio at Pipeline Audio. I had, what was it? Somebody, I think maybe it was Roy, custom built me a desk. And man, it was a cool desk. It had, I think like 8 or 10 or 12 space racks for legs. And then, on the horizontal surface above that, I had piano hinges that opened up that you had patch bays in. And then above that, I had another vertical rack with, I think, 4 or 8 spaces or whatever. Then there was an overbridge. I could put my speakers on, my computer monitors. Back then, they were the old, boat anchor kind, the big round CRTs or whatever you call them. And then I remember we had one where it was pretty much horizontal racks on the top, on the table part. And I think they were diagonal at a small angle. And then they went really steep up into another overbridge. I really like that. I think there was a OmniRacks mix station that was like that. I just remember really liking the vertical racks. I remember a lot of people saying that they were horrible and they're bad for your gear and stuff, but man, it was so convenient. And when you, at the mastering lab we would go to, they had those like diagonal, they weren't quite horizontal, but they were diagonal, all these rack pieces. And it was really ergonomic and really handy to get to. And so I'm really, I don't know if I'm going to be still running this giant Midas M32 console. Maybe if we're going to keep this X32 stuff, maybe I should just get an X32 rack and stick it in a rack and not worry about it. But, if I am going to keep it, I got to make the desk so much deeper if I get a custom one. So yeah, that's one of my things is I might have a custom desk made. And man, it is really hard. If you guys have ideas of, I would really love to have diagonal racks on the countertop that go up into another diagonal or maybe a vertical, whatever, into the bridge for the monitor speakers and things. But I'd also like the legs to be racks. And I know, if there really is a horizontal one on the table, the racks are just going to hit each other, just like any of these diagonal mix racks that you can buy from SKB or whatever, where, they have an upper rack and a lower rack. And if you really put rack gear on the upper one, it hits most of the lower stuff. So my big things, I have a rack mount safe and I have a rack mount computer. And so those I would still like to have, vertical racks for. I don't think that they're going to be great in horizontal racks, but I could be wrong, Maybe the horizontal rack's the way to go for either of those anyway, but I don't think so. I think I'd rather have them vertical. If you have good ideas of desks that I can get a lot of rack space out of, and I can possibly put the Midas M32 on if we're keeping it for any length of time, and still use my keyboard and mouse and things like that. Still have some space for the remote controls and everything, and maybe some space on the side. I'm looking at a custom one, but I'm also looking at that, to be honest, that Studio RTA, the producer station would work pretty good for me. Trouble is getting one in Hawaii is going to be very, very tricky. So, I don't know. If you guys got ideas for desks, let me know. Definitely all ears on that one. Then I saw something really cool. This Skyscraper Guitars. I don't know if you ever used a thing called The Key, or have you ever tried to intonate a Floyd Rose? You know what a pain it is. It's kind of a trial and error. Like if you do it the way many people are forced to, you loosen the string, move the saddle forward or backwards a little bit, lock it back down, tighten the string again. And man, if your Floyd is fully floating, oh boy, this gets ugly, because now you got to get it back into equilibrium, and then check the intonation. And then if it's wrong, you got to do that all again. Loosen it up, unlock the things, move stuff around. It's crazy. This one, Skyscraper Guitars, has something called the Pickpocket Intonation tool. This tool works with Floyd Rose Original, Floyd Rose EVH, and Floyd Rose Special bridges. It also works with a number of Floyd Rose licensed bridges. Though it does say this tool will not work with Ibanez Edge, FR1000, or other bridges with angled fine tuners. So if you have a low pro Floyd, it sounds like it won't work. But this is another intonation tool, and looks like almost looks like a little truss rod. It looks like you turn an Allen wrench or something on the end, and it'll move another extension that goes down into the saddle forward or backwards, so you can get your intonation done real easy. I've had the key, actually I still do have the key, and it's just, man, it's a pain. I just end up doing it by, the old method of just dumping the thing and unlocking everything. And it's a pain, but it seems easier than the key. And then the key doesn't work on a lot of my non-Floyd Roses. So this thing looks good, the Skyscraper Pickpocket. Let's see how much it costs. Let's see. $30. So $30 for this, that is a screaming deal. I mean, yeah, I'll take it. And I heard there was some other stuff these guys make. So I'm going to go look in their store real quick. Oh, neck workstation. This looks nice. Wow, I really like this. So they have a little, looks like a little rounded piece of wood with a notch in it to hold your neck, and then it's got all these holes for like Allen wrenches and screwdrivers and stuff. That is pretty cool. I like that. What else you guys got? They got some books, not straight edge, fret rockers, guitar shaped screw and pick trays. That's kind of smart. Sanding beams. Man, they got it all. That's cool. Some squares and some twisted Sharpies. I don't know what that's for, but go check it out. Skyscraperguitars.com. They got, for sure. Yeah, they make, somebody was talking about these tremolo wedge setup blocks. It's a set of blocks to lock your tremolo in place, and it says for $10. So that's actually pretty cool. Yeah, so anyway, skyscraperguitars.com. Go check out the Pickpocket intonation tool for Floyd Rose. That looks very interesting to me. So hopefully that's cool. And what else do we have? Okay. See a question over at TGP. I'm using a PreSonus interface that only accepts mic level input. I've been using pedals and direct guitar into it for a little bit, and I definitely think I can benefit from a direct box to keep from clipping the interface preamp. My question is, should I go active or passive? I would say the majority of the time I plan to use a cab sim pedal that only has unbalanced output, and less so using my guitar direct. But I'm wondering if a passive direct box would still work if I wanted to go direct with just my guitar and no pedals. Also, just a side note, I'm hoping to pick up one of the more budget-friendly side of things. I've been looking at the Livewire options, but would appreciate any other suggestions. So, to get to the last thing first, remember on my page, we did the real gear measurements where we tested a lot of direct boxes, and it turns out that it was like the $40 Whirlwind or Rapco DB100 tested, as far as I could tell, as good as the Radial JDI. So that sounds about perfect to me. They don't make that anymore. They call it something else. It's the Rapco Horizon or something, DB1. Let me see. Let me find that. Allegedly, it was the Rapco DB100 was the one I tested. But allegedly Phil Zio's shop has one. I think I should just go and order it. We got to test this. So it says Rapco Horizon DB1 passive direct box. If this is anywhere near as good as the old DB100, it's $30 on Amazon. That thing kills it. But there's some weird parts to this question. So I don't know what PreSonus interface doesn't have a DI. I think they all have instrument inputs. And then the other thing, if you're cab sim pedal, do you really need a DI with a cab sim pedal? Maybe. But I'm not sure if that's a problem. But the other thing is active or passive. And yeah, there's to me, the active DIs we did test didn't measure quite as good as the passives we tried. I think the Countryman was okay, but then again, the interface instrument inputs are probably going to be active. So I don't know. I never really got into that game. I just know that some of these really cheap transformer ones work just fine and tested awesome. And chances are, if there's anything that keeps your album from being a hit, it's not going to be because you chose passive instead of active or active instead of passive. So take that for what it's worth. I thought so. He says he has an audio box VSL. He says, I was mistaken. It allows for micro instrument level. So yeah, the cab sim pedal I have uses unbalanced line level output, and even at very low settings on both the input and on the interface, it clips. I thought a direct box could be used to convert to balanced output. Yeah, it can, but yeah, the your DI with the pad switch is going to be a lot handier than that. But let me look at the actual model here. I wonder, is there a pad on this thing, or could it be possible that he has his instrument input on, and it's just it's making it too blasting? Let's see. I'm just gonna pull up a picture. I don't know why my view image. There we go. I don't see a pad, and you know what? It looks like it's a line level. Well, usually there's like this thing has a combo jack, so it's got an XLR and it's got a 1/4 inch in the same thing. Usually, when you see these things, there'll be a switch that lets you choose between line and instrument input. Because man, yeah, instrument input might be too much gain for what you're doing. That's a bummer. But anyway, if you really want a direct box, I'd try one of those DB ones. I mean, it's $30. Well, I'll test it as soon as I can. Sorry, I'll test that against the JDI or whatever. Because my DB100 is pretty old at this point, so it'd be nice to have something new to replace it with. So I'll take a look. Okay, see, upgrading from Line 6 UX2 for better mic'd guitar tones. I've been using a Line 6 UX2 for years now, and my laptop served me well for DI, guitar, and bass. Recently, I tried to use it a few times to mic up an amp with a single Shure SM57. I ended up with mixed results. My miking skills are still a work in progress. Techniques aside, I'm curious about upgrading my interface to make the best of my situation. Would it be an upgrade to go with a sub $500 interface like one of the Focusrite Scarlips, or would it be comparable quality? If so, my next question is, do I need to move up to something like a UA Aero or anything beyond the $500 range in order to get improved mic'd up tones? Otherwise, am I just going down a big rabbit hole? Once again, I'm just running all this gear into my laptop. I don't want to get too deep and have it get additional mic pre's, etc. At this point, I'm not interested in chasing more gears. Okay. That is one of the older interfaces out there, but I would be extremely surprised if you could tell the difference on a mic'd up guitar amp between that UX2 and anything out there. I don't care if it's a Neve or whatever. Like, I got an Amex sitting right here. I got a 1272 sitting here. I would bet that mic in a guitar amp with the UX2 it's just not going to sound that much different, if any. So yeah, I don't think it would be an upgrade to go with the sub $500 interface. You might get better drivers. Sometimes the Line 6 drivers are good or decent, but you might get better drivers if you go to the Focusrite stuff or the Audient Behringer SSL stuff. But would it be comparable quality? I don't actually honestly think that spending even more than $500 is going to make a difference in the quality that you hear. If you're still learning how to mic up amps and things, like, honestly, it may not be anybody's first choice. It may not make a difference, but if you can't get a world-class guitar amp miking sound out of a UX2, it's not the UX2 that's the problem. I'm telling you, this, again, this is one of the older, this is on the extreme old end of things, but it's still pretty good. Want to get a new mic preamp that, a new interface that has newer modern mic preamps, go for it. You don't have to spend a ton on it. The money you want to spend on mic preamps is for drivers, not for magical analog circuits or whatever. They're all going to be pretty good. I'm kind of notorious for not really liking the UAD stuff, so I definitely wouldn't recommend that thing. It might be okay, but if I'm going to spend big money, I'm going to go buy an RME any day, or a Motu. So yeah, don't kill yourself. If you want a newer interface, go get one. It's not. I don't think it's going to help the situation you're dealing with unless you're. I don't think it's going to help anyway, but you might want modern drivers. You might want modern features, but keep experimenting with that 57. It should be fine. And you know, you're going to learn so much more just moving it around than buying stuff. Okay. So here's help trying to play music to girlfriend and friends over Zoom and Skype. This guy's having a little bit of trouble with the sound over Zoom and Skype. And then here's what got my interest. Then I tried sharing the screen and computer audio into Zoom. If I just played an MP3 through MPC, they could hear that, although it seems heavily chopped in the lows, high, boost, mid, so vocals are very loud, but not the guitar. Then I tried playing everything through Cakewalk, and they can't hear a sausage. Do I even need to say it? This is that routing issue one more time, why it's so damn hard to get audio from our DAWs and ASIO apps and, you know, our low latency apps into Zoom or Skype or OBS or wherever you want to get them. Yeah, that sucks. That sucks, and it sucks for 20 years. So, bummer. You know, you could do a loop back or something, I guess, if you had a very big interface. But, well, he's got an Audient ID14. He may be able to do some kind of loop back thing. I don't know. But, man, it's dumb that we're still dealing with this. Okay, and again, searching for a new audio interface, USB. I'm currently investing in my home recording setup. I'm searching for a new audio interface. At the moment, I'm using Native Instruments Complete Audio 6 for recording a DI track, my Kemper, an amp DI, and the amp going through my Captor X. Unfortunately, the routing options for the NI Complete 6 are quite limited. E.g., I cannot monitor input 3, 4. Also, I'd like to get some more inputs in order to be able to additionally mic up a cab with several mics, etc. So I need some more inputs, mic pre's, and I'd like to have more options. I'd really like to have SPDIF. He's looking at Zoom UAC 8, Focusrite Scarlett 18i20, and Focusrite Claret 8 Pre. So you guys might know, you know, I was just going through this dilemma. Do I get the Scarlett or the Claret for the Octopre? And yeah, I ended up going with the Scarlett, but the Claret 8 Pre USB sounds kind of interesting, though I don't know if it's really going to be any better than the 18i20. But somebody said I can absolutely recommend the Claret and have high standards coming from RME. Haven't tried a Scarlett. As far as I know, the Scarlett and the Claret are going to have the same drivers, and you really can't compare those to an RME. So they're good. They're decent. And Focusrite, you know, I think kind of shocked the world when they pulled the kind of RME move of going and making new drivers for their first generation interfaces. That was pretty awesome of them. Most companies won't do that. It's abandonware after a little while, but that was really cool of Focusrite to do. But yeah, I don't really think you're going to get, I don't think you're going to notice between the Claret and the Scarlett. It is nice that both of those have 8-add inputs as far as I know, so you can add another 8 channels. That'd be awesome. Okay, what else do we get? Would you recommend mastering a studio recording? Yes, I would. And I probably wouldn't have it be one of those guys that mixes and that says, oh, I'm going to mix this and then I'm going to master it. I know people do okay with that, and I think the modern sound kind of asks for that. But to me, I don't know. I still don't master anything I mix. I send that off to usually Matt Merman, actually, or Andrew Davenport. You know, it depends what you want to do with it. But if you really want to show people stuff, I'd get it mastered. I mean, I know it says I'm a crappy engineer. That back in the day, especially when I would, you know, actually I'd sit in the lab with them. I'd take the albums there and come back and pick them up. I would think I had a great mix. I take it to the mastering lab and be thinking, we already got the mix. What do we need the mastering guy to do? And man, when it came back, it was so much better than what I had given them. The thing that I thought was perfect, So they made a hell of a lot more perfect. But maybe that was just because I'm a crappy engineer. But I've heard that with the good engineers as well. I've sat in on a lot of mastering sessions. People are saying don't, but I would, if you can afford it, and this is something that's, something you care about showing to people, I would probably get it mastered by somebody good. There was a answer. Mastering is essential even if you record and mix a song in a professional studio, but that doesn't mean you can't get great results from what the mix engineer did in the studio to master the song. Most mix engineers can do a fine job of mastering if you're on a budget. Well, I can't. Or every time I try, it doesn't make the sounds that I want to make. But I would go get it mastered. What are some ways to make a crappy microphone sound better? This is, it's an interesting one because it really depends on what mic it is. I like the answer that somebody says, put a $20 USD XLR condenser or shotgun mic on a good cable and a Scarlett 2i2 or Sound Devices mix pre and you'd be surprised. Maybe you already did. I don't know. But I don't think you need a good cable. You need a working cable, but I don't want to go spend a ton of money on an XLR cable. But there are entire communities that mod the hell out of those MXL mics back in the day. I think they're still around. Maybe it's at Giraffe or something. And I mean, they've got everything. Capsules, transformers, you really could turn that thing into whatever you wanted. But, I found with some mics that just shutting them up inside made them a lot better. And what I mean is that a lot of these big bodied mics that you see, they're usually pretty cheap, but they resonate like a flute. Like you can actually tap them with a drumstick and hear them. And so I found that just taking the shells off, and be careful when you think about this, but the big the outer body, the inside of that, I would just put tool dip, plastic dip, whatever the stuff on the end of your pliers. You can get a liquid form of it from the hardware store, and I just put it on with a chopstick. And somewhere I have some graphs of the before and after of the sweeps with that, and it was crazy. It actually took down this whole giant, not a notch, but like this weird peak. It actually knocked it down. So maybe that's something to think about. What is the highest quality microphone that you know of for singers? What do you mean by highest quality? This is the best sounding mic. I mean, they all, any decent modern mic, and I'm talking like $50, $60 mics, they can have, think about the parameters of a mic. You got how much sound pressure level can it handle? How sensitive is it? It's your signal to noise ratio. And what is the frequency response and the bandwidth? And these things are going to have different curves. I think they're kind of tailored to upper mid range or whatever. So you can check them out. There's going to be a different peak. But really, I don't know that by highest quality, what do you talk about? You can really make any of them sound good as long as it's a decent mic. What you might have trouble with is things like handling noise or reliability. If it's built crappy, well, that's you're gonna have trouble trusting it. But I don't know that you're gonna really notice a difference in better or worse sound, though you may like one better than another because of where the what they did to the frequency response. So, I don't think you're really going to go wrong. For the stage, you might not want a super sensitive condenser, but you might. And you might get a little bit more highs and clarity out of a condenser in the studio. So I don't know. You know, it came from a place where we had a matched quartet of Neumann M49s. I mean, it was insane, but you know, I didn't really. There were some magic signal chains, but really, you could have swapped that mic out with the decent modern condenser, and nobody would have died. All right. This is kind of a short one, I think, but that's all I got for today. I'll see you guys next week.